Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang from Wager Talk and UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt from SportsMemo and Tony Finn from Wager Talk. We'll be talking about Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and Denver Nuggets, which will be played on Sunday. But before we get into that game, I do want to talk about what we got going on over at SportsMemo and Wager Talk. We got the free live odds page on both sites, the deal pages on both sites as well. It has promos available, promo codes for each specific capper or even site-wide stuff. Cappers provide free picks and analysis on a daily basis as well. Along with their daily packages, it is free to sign up to get those free information, free packages, and free daily analysis and all that stuff. So all you need is the email address to sign up. Make sure you head over to Sports Memo to catch Matt. You can find myself and Tony Finn over at Wager Talk. Before you go, though, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube after the show. With that said, let's get Matt and Tony up here with me. What is up, guys? You know how we do it. Every time we open up the show, we want to open up transparent, right? 2-1 yesterday for me, 1-1 in the NBA, 1-0 in the WNBA. I took the Nuggets in the first half. That hit the team total over yesterday was actually my biggest play of the day, and that did not hit. So ended up going down on the juice alone yesterday. So luckily, I had the WNBA and the first half to hit for me. But how did you guys do in Game 1 of the NBA series, or this week in general? Tony, let's start with you.
Yesterday I had a 5%er in the NBA opener, NBA Finals opener, should I say, Game 1. I had under 219.5, which I'm sure we'll talk about that this morning. The adjustment already, the large adjustment in the opening number as far as the total goes. So that was my cash. I did miss it was a 5% one. I had a 1%er on a player prop that failed. In fact, I'm sure it failed for a lot. It was fairly popular with going over his rebound, points, rebounds, and assists. He did not do it. He didn't score for, I can't remember how long it was, but had several players yesterday come up with a goose egg for quite some time before they hit their first bucket points, etc. That being the Joker as well. So looking forward to Game 2.
Yeah, Matt, how's everything going with you?
Yeah, started Game 1 with a 1-2 record. Talked about that Jokic triple-double. That ended up coming through for me. I had Michael Porter Jr., which started off great at 10 points at half. Couldn't get 6 points in the second half, sadly. But that's MPJ sometimes. And if you told me he was going to go 5 for 14, I would take it again, if I'm being honest. Also had a total play. That missed. But, again, 1-2. We're looking to bounce back. Felt like I caught on to some good things in Game 1, some things that could definitely come true down the line. So excited to talk about some of that stuff. And, as always, just ready to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, let's get into it. So Heat Nuggets Game 2 will be played in Denver on Sunday. Let's talk about Game 1 a little bit here. Nuggets obviously took Game 1 of the series 104-93. Heat only shot 41% from the field. They continue to struggle against the Nuggets team. We talked about this on the show on Wednesday. Now they've lost 10 of their last 11 against the Nuggets here. The Heat have, including losing and failing to cover the last 7 straight now, including Game 1 of the series. We saw a couple of guys who stepped up during the playoffs for the Heat really struggle in Game 1. One guy, obviously, Caleb Martin, scored 3 points over seven from the field. I think a lot of us, we talked about this also on Wednesday, Matt. We thought he was going to struggle. We thought he was going to go under his props for the most part, and I think he went under in every single one of his props. But one guy that I thought was going to step up, Max Strus, he had 0 points. He went 0 for 10 from the field, 0 for 9 from 3. And those were the things that I was expecting him to really step up in, right? I thought he was going to be able to hit those threes. He got the opportunities. He just didn't make the shots. Rest advantage and fatigue, obviously, it really did show up in Game 1 of the series there for the Heat. And that's kind of one thing. Maybe that's the reason why Tony took the under. He maybe expected them to really struggle in that aspect. What type of adjustments need to be made from the Heat to steal a game here in Game 2? And do you guys see anything from a betting perspective that catches your guys' eye? Matt, let's go with you here first.
Yeah, I'll be honest. There's some things from a betting perspective that definitely caught my eye. I would say it's more from the Nuggets side. But first, to kind of answer your question, some of the adjustments that I think need to be made. For one, I think it's Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler needs to have, I believe it was around 14 shots, something along those lines. I think he needs to be in the vicinity of 20 because, Bam Adebayo had a great game, but I promise you that is not something Bam Adebayo is going to do night in, night out. They're going to need Jimmy Butler to be aggressive. Another thing, Ron, a lot of what we talked about kind of came true. I just wish I took it. We talked about Bam Adebayo bouncing back, having a great game. We talked about Caleb Martin getting a little too juicy with that line and taking the under. I just wish I took it myself. So now going into game 2, I think some guys or some adjustments that need to be made. Really, if anything, it's just Jimmy Butler being more aggressive. But we've talked about this with guys like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson. You're going to have a lot of hot and cold throughout this series. It's very rare that all 4 of those guys go off or have good games at the same time. More than anything from game 1, I'm going to be honest, I just think it really reinforced my initial thought that this Heat team is really in trouble, and this Heat team has a ton of mismatches in comparison to the Nuggets. The Nuggets are the ones with the mismatches, I should say. Because when watching this game, I saw Nikola Jokic have a 27-point triple-double, shooting 8 for 12 from the field. That's not something the Heat should be excited about. The guy had 12 shots, had 27 points in a triple-double. So that's essentially saying, somewhere in this series, I would not be shocked at all to see that 40-point triple-double or that absolute bomb. That a lot of people look for maybe when having a same-game parlay or something like that. There was even a parlay special on FanDuel Sportsbook for Nikola Jokic to potentially hit 50 points. And after seeing last night, it's definitely possible. Just because if he gets that volume, if he's actually very aggressive, there's no one who can guard him. Bam Adebayo is too small. Yeah. We talked about that. Cody Zeller came in and tried to guard him. That didn't go very well on top of that. So for me, it just really reinforced what I personally think about the Nuggets, reinforced what I think about Nikola Jokic, and I would not be shocked at all to see Jokic come out and maybe have a triple-double, damn near every game in this series. So I really just think it reinforced what I initially thought about the Nuggets, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned too is like one thing they did in the fourth quarter, I think they started fronting him and also having someone behind. So it was almost like a fake, half man, half zone. I think it was either Hightower or Gabe Vincent trying to front him. And then they really let off the gas pedal in that second half, I think, with that 17-point halftime lead. And then they started to make some adjustments. I think once in the fourth quarter that I saw Jokic got aggressive, he started to make, get more efficient offensively. I think it was like towards the end of the fourth quarter that he got it down to like around 10 points or so. And then he kind of took it a little bit more serious. And if we see that Jokic, right, in that period of time for a whole, game, it's going to be trouble for the Heat. I don't know. I just little things that I saw. People kept talking about the adjustments that the Heat made in the fourth quarter. But to me, it was more so, the Nuggets really just letting out the gas pedal. They didn't really need to put that much effort into it for the most part. But Tony, are you seeing anything that the Miami Heat can do to get game 2, or do you wait until maybe they get home, where the Nuggets usually struggle on the road? So what do you think from a betting aspect? Do you see anything here in this game 2?
Well, I find this a pretty difficult series for a lot of reasons. I like the under in the first game for a lot of basically some underlying peripherals that figured to happen. I thought there would be some letdown. I really believed that Miami would have a little bit of letdown. That was a big win in Boston. They're pretty exhausted. They've been playing short benched, with no hero for quite some time. And to go to altitude is as much as a lot of us, or at least the Joe public, would like to, basically kick that to the curb and ignore it. Playing at altitude, it exists. I mean, if you're not accustomed to playing at that altitude, you get tired faster. That's just physics, right? And there's 100 different things that happened yesterday that I can say to you doesn't surprise me one bit. However, what surprises me, all of them happened in the same game. You mentioned already, you guys have already talked about Jokic. But he looked like he didn't even have a care in the world, right? He had 3 shots before halftime and they had a pretty good sized lead. All he did was do what he really enjoys doing, and that's facilitating, basically engineering, orchestrating that offense. Even though he's not the point, but he sits right there at the key. He gets the ball, and there's few centers that are able to facilitate like Jokic or a Sabonis, for instance, too. Sabonis very similar, although he doesn't seem to have. He just doesn't seem as big as Jokic. He's not big or wide, should I say? But I'm excited. I mean, I don't think that Miami's going to be as miserable from the field. They had a lot of uncontested jumpers that they've been hitting from the perimeter. They really have. And they weren't very efficient. This is a problem. The 2-3 zone that Coach Spo plays really limited. They limited Boston to 0.90 points per possession, and I think it was Miami. But the last two series, they've really done a good job in the 2-3. I don't think it works against Denver and Jokic, but we can talk about that too as you want to.
Yeah. Do you what are your thoughts on? So obviously, we talk about adjustments here for Miami. They only went to the free throw line. I think it was it twice, if I'm not mistaken?
Two
free throw attempts. And one thing that I learned through years of watching NBA and also listening to interviews, especially in the playoffs specifically. We know in the playoffs the refs, not only the teams make adjustments from game to game, but the refs do too, right? They do it more often than they do in the regular season. My understanding is in the regular season they have maybe weekly or bi-monthly meetings with the refs to make proper adjustments from calls made. In the playoffs, and more so in the finals, they're doing it every single game. Do we expect, I'm expecting it, but what do you guys think about maybe Miami getting more opportunities at the free throw line in game 2 and how that could affect the game?
Yeah, I definitely think that's an important thing. And even going back to Jimmy Butler, I know the Heat's win percentage drastically increases when he has at least 10 free throw attempts in a game. So I think another thing is, him trying to get to the basket. Because really of anyone on that team, Jimmy is the slasher. He's the one who tries to get to the basket. He's the one who tries to draw fouls. Maybe a little bit more of Caleb Martin. He needs to bounce back because Caleb Martin and Max Strus, just drastically struggling, played a huge factor into that game for the Heat. So I guess if there is a bright spot for the Heat, it's that they were in the game, towards the end of it, or at least were competitive. And Caleb Martin shot terrible. Max Strus shot terrible. And Jimmy Butler only took 14 shots. So if you are going to take a positive away from that game, you can throw the free throws in with it, only having 2 free throws. Then you have those 2 guys who are key players on your team playing somewhat dreadful. There is a silver lining here. If you are the Miami Heat, if you are Eric Spoelstra, there is some things that you can talk about with your team and say, hey, look here. We typically don't do that. We typically don't have 2 free throws a game. Let's just get out there, be more aggressive in game 2, and see if we can't keep this thing close and steal one on the road. So I do think do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. But I do think there is a silver lining for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, Tony. So obviously, I'm assuming that they're going to get more attempts at the free throw line. Not only the refs making adjustments, seeing those fouls come a little bit more clear, but also the Heat being more aggressive. Right? You took the under in game 1. You hit that pretty easily. Do you think that's something that would say, hey, maybe this might be an over game? And even with that said, even if Miami does go up and over, right, their team total, that would force Denver to force the issue a little bit more as well. Miami took 17 more shots than Denver in game 1, still lost by double digits. Like there's like I said, they didn't get aggressive till the latter part of that fourth quarter in that second half. Denver did. So if we see Miami stay close, within a more I guess easier, not easier, but maybe like a 5 to 10 point range throughout the game instead of like a 17 to 20. Maybe Denver continues to push the pace as well. What do you think about the total here in game 2?
Well, I think they over. I personally, I think you outlined it pretty well, and I think the adjustment from 219 to 213 is a pretty big adjustment after one game. I think at least that was the initial opener, 213 and a half. Last night, I saw a 214. I saw him already. There's some sharp money already come in on the over because we don't know really yet if it's a decoy or if it's somebody still believing that Miami is who they are. Or at least they've been. In three of the last four games? Three of the last four games, Miami has not cracked 100. Is that correct? Didn't they go under 100 two times before Game 7, then yesterday? So there's some concern. There's some concern from some Joe Public. There's even some concern from some gamers who are pretty experienced. Did Miami? Are they out of steam?
Mm-hmm.
Did they shoot above their pay grade? I mean, they in this playoffs, they have exceeded their regular season averages by leaps, bounds, heads, shoulders, and I did a show yesterday with some smart NBA guys, and one of them said this: "Hey, this is the same team that led the league in 3-point shooting last year, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe the regular season was the aberration." Well, I'd like to agree to that, especially if I was a Miami fan, but going 82 games is far from an aberration, right, guys? So when you shoot that over a period of 82 games, I know they've been dinking and dunking. They've been injured all season, missing one piece, it seemed like, every game night, right? And now they're healthy except without Hero. Here's the adjustment that I make for this game. And it's big, and I think you guys will agree. And that is, if Hero plays in Game 2, like they're talking, okay? I don't have any intel on this. Maybe you guys can share if you have some. But if Hero plays, he figures it's gonna be a little rusty. But if he can shoot without pain and get up and down the court without gasping for air, he hasn't seen the court in quite a while. Now he's gonna be at altitude, right? That makes Miami better offensively and less than defensively, which would lead me to believe this total would probably climb another point or two. It may climb another point or two before we go to tip in Game 2.
That is a great point, and I was just going to ask that about Tyler Herro and what you guys' thoughts was, but I definitely agree with that. The fact that whether he plays limited minutes, the minutes that he will be on the court, he's likely going to push the pace and create more offensive opportunities, not only for himself but for other people, because he is a threat, right? He does make those 3-point shots. He's capable of doing it, and Denver knows that. So. So I get it. I like that look that from you, Tony, as far as what would happen if Tyler Herro comes back. I know initially they were thinking Game 3 would be the target, but yesterday we also saw some news that he's putting the shots up. He was practicing and he maybe by Game 2 he'll be ready to go. But probably if he does, it'll likely be limited in the minutes. Well, any last words, guys, before we go into the best bet section? I thought we did a pretty good job of breaking it down. Actually, one more question for Matt here. Caleb Martin, right? Caleb Martin and Max Strus, both, I think, combined 1 for 18 or whatever it was, 3 points between the two of them. We already talked about Caleb Martin going under his props in Game 1, right? I thought Max Strus was going to pick it up. Obviously, he didn't make his shots, but either of these guys, would you look towards their over in this Game 2, knowing there is a chance that Tyler Herro comes back, in limited minutes?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Caleb Martin is someone I will continue to fade unless he gets down maybe in the 13.5, 12.5 range. Maybe then I would entertain a point prop there. Max Strus I actually would entertain because he's generally a lower prop. It's usually like a 9.5, 10.5, somewhere in that vicinity. And him and Gabe Vincent kind of go back and forth. Neither of them are that consistent, I should say. And when one of them has an off game, I generally like to back them the following game to come back and bounce back and have a good outing. Because Max Strus is someone who can heat up from behind the arc. We've seen it happen before. And a lot of the shots that Max Strus had were open looks. He was honestly just missing them. So for me, if I were to look anywhere, I would probably go Max Strus, continue to fade Caleb Martin unless that number does come back down. Because we also got to see how the minutes get distributed once Tyler Herro does come back. And you know how I am. We've talked about this before. I love the total point by Tony. I think that's a great look, especially, Herro comes back. The pace is going to come up a little bit more. He might take some earlier shots in that shot clock, things like that. But all season long, we've kind of run this, Ron, and it's when a star player or a key player is added back into that lineup, you generally fade that team. And so that's one thing I would definitely be doing. I would probably be fading the Miami Heat once again if Tyler Hero does come back, because I think it disrupts the lineup a little more than anything. And with it being the NBA Finals, that's a really tough spot. And, you got to throw egos aside and things like that. But that's a tough spot to redistribute minutes and stuff like that. And, everyone's really comfortable. Everyone has the lineups that they've been running throughout the playoffs. So it's a lot to happen, in the NBA Finals. So for me, I love the total look from Tony, but I would also be siding with the Denver Nuggets spread if Tyler comes back as well.
That makes a lot of sense too. One other guy that kind of made a name for himself in that fourth quarter or in the second half of that game was a Hightower for Miami too. He scored 18 points. I think he scored like double digits in that fourth quarter too. So it'll be interesting to see if Spo kind of goes with the hot hand there and gives him more minutes above guys like Strus who struggled, or even Caleb Martin. I know Gabe Vincent did a good job. He kind of did his part, but for the most part, maybe we'll see what the rotation is like. We'll see if Tyler Hero comes back, but a lot of that stuff from a prop perspective, I think would depend on the news of Tyler Hero. So that makes a lot of sense. That maybe we just wait on the props especially for Miami, and that's the reason probably a lot of their props are not up at this current moment. Most of the Nuggets props are up, but not the Heat, because they're probably waiting on the Tyler Hero news. With that said, guys, it's time for the best bet section. Tony, let's go with you here first. What's your best bet for game 2 of the series here, or maybe it's a future bet, maybe, I don't know. But game 2 or of this series, and what do you got going on over at Wager Talk?
I'm already up I have my key position, another 5% position in this NBA Finals game 2 for Sunday. It's up and ready to go. I will be adding some. I believe I will. I think I'll find a couple of props that I'll find attractive. And in this game, too, it's gonna be fun for a lot of reasons. One, because I just think we're gonna see a lot of different things. I think we're gonna see. I got Bam. I'm gonna get to the point, I guess, of my prop, and that is I got Bam over 3.5 assists, -115. He's playing the role. At least Denver's kind of playing the role, or playing this big, and not that Bam's a huge. I mean, he's the only guy in their top 7 rotation that's over 6'7", guys, and he's still 2 inches shorter than Jokic and probably 40 pounds lighter, right? So he's going to play. They're going to play him loose. They're going to play him on the perimeter a little bit more. You saw a lot of that. He was between the key and the top of the circle, or the free throw line and the top of the circle, and he'd come down and get that 10-foot, 12-foot elbow jumper, and he hit him. So I think that even if they play him a little tighter in game 2, I still think that he's going to be a guy that gets for another 40 minutes, right? He got 40 minutes in game 1, and to get to 4 assists in 40 minutes, man, I'll take me. Get 4 assists in 40 minutes. So especially a guy that's going to touch the ball, 40% of the possessions, right? So give me Bam over 3.5 assists on Sunday night.
Yeah, I like that look a lot, because another thing to mention too, Bam took 25 shots. I don't know if we're going to see that again. And if he's going to be there, get the ball at the high post, he's obviously going to have to pass the ball a little bit more, right? Denver is probably going to do something to get the ball out of his hands, because he was the most efficient guy on the offense. So it makes a lot of sense. I like that look a lot. Matt, let's go to you here. What's your best bet for the show, and what do you got going on over at SportsMemo?
Yeah, guys, so far over at SportsMemo, I only have one play loaded, but we'll definitely be adding to that as we go. Looking to get right back on track here. We started off 1-2 with the Jokic triple-double, and, going right back to that best bet. And a lot of it has to do with what Tony said, actually, but going right back to Nikola Jokic once again with that triple-double. You guys heard me talk about it on the last show, game 1. I said Nikola Jokic very well could have a triple-double in every single game this series. And to my surprise, the last thing to get was the rebounds, actually. And, to Tony's point with Bam Adebayo, I think Bam is going to continue to have a lot of room here. Nikola, 26 shots, that might be the most shots he's ever taken in his life, if I'm being honest. And I think the Nuggets are just going to live with that. I do not expect Jokic to leave that paint and come out and guard Adebayo at that mid-range or, closer to the three-point line. I think they're going to live with that, and Jokic is just going to hang out around the rim. And because of that, Bam's going to have more shot opportunities, he's going to have more pass opportunities, things like that. So I think that's a great look from Tony as well. But from the perspective of Nikola Jokic, he's going to be just fine because he's not going to get into foul trouble, anything like that. I don't think he's going to come in and press him, get into his body, things of that nature. And Jokic is very good at being careful about fouling around the rim and stuff. Early on, Bam was trying to attack the basket, things like that. And Jokic just does a good job standing straight up, getting his hands up, and living with the result. He shot 13 for 25, 13 for 26, something along those lines. So he still missed 13 shots, and he was easily the hottest on the Miami Heat. So once again, I think it's just something the Denver Nuggets are going to live with. And then because of that, Nikola Jokic is going to continue to hang around that rim. And last show, we also talked about this. If Eric Spoelstra decides to go to any type of zone, he is going to get picked apart. And that's why you saw Nikola Jokic have 14 assists. You can't have a 7-footer who can pass wherever he wants to and run a zone. It's just not going to work. And then on top of that, you have that matchup with Bam Adebayo or Cody Zeller, and Jokic is going to eat on both of those guys as well. So I personally just, again, think this is a huge, huge series for Nikola Jokic. I think he's playing the best basketball throughout anyone in the NBA at this point in time. So I'm going to continue backing his triple-double until this number elevates to maybe around a minus 200 or something along those lines. He's hit this also in 7 out of his last 8 games. So he's just been on fire with his triple-doubles. And, I'm almost surprised this number hasn't gotten higher. So for me, I'm going to continue rolling with the Nikola Jokic triple-double. It was minus 130 last I looked at it. And another thing is this is a great base, too, for my same-game parlay people. You lay out that 20-point, 20, 10, and 10, Nikola Jokic triple-double, maybe come back with a Jimmy Butler 15, 4, and 4, and you got 20 plus 250 right there. So, it's the NBA Finals. Everyone's trying to make it a little more interesting. I think a great spot is with Nikola Jokic, minus 130 at that or the triple-double.
Yeah, I think he's hit the triple-double against Miami in 4 of his last 6 games against Miami, too. And we talked about it on Wednesday. I think the 2 that he didn't hit, he missed the assist prop by like 1 or under 3 in both games. I like that look a lot. And you mentioned the building it out, right? The prop builder. I looked at it this morning because I was actually looking at that same prop, the triple-double. It was kind of juiced. So I looked at it. If you build it out yourself and you get I think it's 22 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, that type of triple-double, you get it at plus money. So if you want to build it out, if you have the prop builder, it's something that you could do. But that's a good look there. I definitely agree as far as that he hits the double game in these as long as it goes. So let's my best bet. I talked about this. What I took in game 1, I took the Nuggets first half. Game 1, I took the Nuggets team total over in game 1 as well. That the total didn't. I'm actually gonna go back to it. Couple of things that Tony mentioned, and also, some of the adjustments that I see going into this game, it's actually going to allow the Nuggets to have more opportunities offensively. If the Heat go to the free throw line a lot more, that means the ball's in the hands. The time is going to have. There's going to be more time for the Nuggets to have the ball in their hands, and they're going to have more than 79 shot attempts than they, in game 1, and they were really efficient. If you look at what they did in the first half versus the second half. If the Heat were able to stay closer than the double-digit lead at halftime, the Nuggets would be forced to continue playing the same way they did in the first half. But because it was such a big lead, they really just let off the gas pedal. The only times that they were like even close to being in danger, you saw the Nuggets become more aggressive, become more efficient offensively. They did what they were able to do, exactly what they wanted, right? You seen Gordon really be successful in that dunker role. If Michael Porter Jr. was able to hit at least 3 more of his threes that he attempted, he went 2 for 11 from 3. They would have went over their team total. So there's a lot of things that I saw that could have happened that could have got them over. I think if the Heat were able to stay a little bit closer, it would have went over pretty easily here. I do think that the Heat stay close for the most part of this game 2 here. I think we're going to see them get to the free throw line a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit more aggressive. And when we see teams get into foul trouble, they tend to lax defensively, right? So the pace is going to pick up a little bit more. So that's the reason. Another reason why I like to look towards this Nuggets team total over, because when they play with pace, especially in Denver, they are very hard to stop offensively. They get into a rhythm and they don't let off. That's the reason why I'm going again with the Nuggets team total over. It's 111.5. It came down a few points and I like it at this number here. Hopefully they get up and over with more made shots. Michael Porter Jr. is gonna have to hit those threes though, because 2 for 11 is not gonna cut it. But he's gonna continue to get those opportunities because defensively, if you continue to have Jokic at the high post, the dunker roll with Aaron Gordon, and then the 3-point shot over on the corners with MPJ and KCP, they're gonna be there all game. They're just gonna have to make those shots and those layups. So that's my best bet for today's show is the Nuggets going back to the Nuggets team total over 111.5. Over at Wager Talk right now, I got 3 plays up, all in the WNBA. I haven't posted that team total in the for Denver yet, but that's going to be a premium play as well. WNBA, I have a 4% play and a couple smaller ones for today, and I'm number 1 in WNBA profit over at Wager Talk. So head over there if you want to catch some of the plays. I gave out a couple of them in the free section of the website. So wagertalk.com, you see the free picks page, free plays page. Some of those plays will be there. Tony, he's over at Wager Talk. Matt over at SportsMemo. With all that, all that information that we gave today for Game 2, our next show will be, I believe, on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Should be myself and Matt, possibly Jeff Michaels. We're not sure yet. But with that said, guys, good luck with all your action this weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Good luck. Peace.
Peace.